Folks, let's actually have some good news, right? We've had a lot of crisis videos and there's lots of reasons to be scared, but I want to put a shout out to Mr. Jerome Powell. It appears he is beating inflation. I don't know if you saw it this morning, but the latest reading on inflation actually came from PPI. It was expected to be 5.4. It came in at 4.5. That is a huge beat to the downside or surprise. Also, CPI came from 6.4 to 6 as expected. Again, retail sales came in low for February. I think there's a lot of things heading in the right direction. So yeah, I think Powell is winning, and we should celebrate that for a minute. It's not that he's won. It's not like game is over, but hey, he's winning at halftime, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I broadly agree with that statement. I
Oh, you
think
you
that
can disagree. It's okay.
we have some good signs that inflation is starting to come down, right? We had some signs last week that made me think, prices are still kind of on the upside, and I think that there still is a possibility that inflation continues to rise in certain areas, economy, the energy and food and services, et cetera. So, but those data points are good news. Like we've talked about on this show, data points in one area might be totally different in an area than another, and so it's hard to make like a broad swath statement, which is the only
Yeah.
reason I kind of hesitated.
Yeah.
I think that it's the data is showing that there's enough pain that I think finally inflation in certain areas is starting to come down, and that's definitely a good thing. I think with the failure of some banks, like we talked about in the first video, that's definitely going to spark some fear and get consumers to continue to spend less and less. So I think those two things together, and the Fed backstop is definitely positive news for getting consumers to stop spending and bring prices down.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things going on. And again, as an economist, the good economist, the average economist, I think gets lost in Excel spreadsheets. The
Yeah,
good economists, which I certainly try to be one, look at those, understand them, but always go back to what's the consumer doing today.
right,
So again, I think
right.
as we talked about in video one, I think the consumer is scared. If February was down -4 on retail, no, let me be clear, -0.4 on retail sales, March could be down 1.4. I mean, it's going to be noticeable, right? There
Yeah.
were people planning to do things this week that didn't do them because they were scared for their cash.
Yeah, I think
And
this week is a big pivot in the fight against inflation, and probably the official beginning of recession, in my
I agree.
opinion
I
as
said
well.
I said that exact thing this morning.
Yeah,
I said that
yeah. So,
exact thing.
I was a little worried at the end of last week before the banking crisis, started, because there were signs of inflation going up. And if you actually look at the revised numbers for December, January, and February, they've actually revised the CPI number up from what
Up,
they said
up.
it was. And so that
Yep.
made me go, wait a second, this is not good. It's
Yeah.
going up even higher than they're saying. But the new data points are, in the opposite direction. So I think with what's happened over the weekend and through this week, I think that really rocks the consumer
Oh,
psyche. And I think that's going to at least start slowing down the consumer consumption on the things that are discretionary for sure. I mean, food and energy are a different animal, but I think
mhm.
services and goods start to come down to the
Yeah.
extent that they're not increased because of higher energy costs.
Yeah. There's actually one variable that at least every other quote unquote YouTube expert on the economy is missing that I think is actually critical, vital, and actually why I am comfortable saying Powell is winning. And I'll share with you that now. It
Yeah.
actually came from CPI yesterday. So inside of CPI, once you break it all down, when again, CPI, just so we're clear, was 6%, not good. But roughly speaking, 70% of that 6%, which equates to about 4.2% if you do the math, was housing related. And the way that housing is calculated, as you know, it's a 12-month kind of lagging indicator. It's
Right.
not a moment in time. It's not eggs, right? What are
Right.
eggs today? Housing is not that
Right.
variable. It's like a roller coaster, right? Where you're kind of going up and up and up, and it's a 12
Right.
cars.
Right.
I said going into CPI, this might be the month shelter inflation peaks. And thus far it did. It was 8.1. It's the highest to date. All we need, and Powell needs, is for that to roll over, and then it will roll over for months. So I don't think we're going to lose 4% of 6, but as I have always said, we're going to go to 6, from 6 to 4 because of housing, and we're almost there.
Yeah.
Then The really hard stuff starts with wages X housing or services X housing. So again, it's a long battle. It'll be years. We already had goods deflation. We're on the cusp of getting housing. And then we're going to get to, 3.8, 4.1, and we could just grind lower from there. But that's really, I think, the most important thing is housing was the lion's share of CPI. I think we all know that will roll over. And I think Powell is like, God, it can't come soon enough, but it is coming.
Yeah, and I think the question for housing is when does it roll over, right? So even though rents have come down, rents are still up significantly, and housing costs for anyone that's buying now is still up significantly because prices haven't fallen, commensurate to the increase in interest rates. And so I just don't know how to extrapolate how long is it going to be before that housing component comes down. But regardless, I think to your point, if the majority of CPI is in housing, even if that stays elevated, if the other components start to really come down, then that means that, inflation as a whole is coming down, which is the direction we want to see.
Yeah, I haven't checked oil this morning. Let me check oil because I think oil is declining precipitously. Oh yeah, now it's $68, under 70.
Yeah.
So
right.
again, all of this is I think you said, I've said a couple of times now, this weekend broke the consumer. By break the consumer means psychology. We went from YOLOing life and doing trips and going to Disneyland and buying new cars to, oh my God, my money's not safe. We should probably have some more money. Honey, don't you think we should have some more money? Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's conserve, conserve, conserve. And I think that leads to a recession, that leads to deflation, that leads to, again, I think Powell is winning. And again, if the battle we're in is to beat inflation, I think this weekend will prove to be good news, bad news. But I think by December, which, is 9 months away or 8.5 months away, inflation will be sub 4 CPI headline. But, and I think that's good because I don't know that I saw that coming. If we kept YOLOing life like were last weekend, inflation could have been a problem all the way to next summer. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, that's kind of the question is how much does it take to break the consumer, right? How much is it going to take to get people to stop spending? And the thought was it's going to take a deep recession and high unemployment. And then once people start seeing all those layoffs, they pull back. So the question is, did this spook enough people to say, okay, now it's time to pull back, or not? And so, time will tell. I've been surprised at how resilient the consumer has been until now. So it'll be really interesting to watch. So I'm hopeful that this is enough to get the consumption down, CPI down, so that the Fed doesn't keep having to raise rates. Because if they do, I'm more fearful about a break in the financial system that could be pretty severe if the Fed has to contend with both higher inflation and a banking crisis. I think that they choose to fix the banking crisis and let inflation continue to rear its ugly head. So my hope with you is that the consumer says, okay, hold off, we stop spending, and we naturally bring inflation down.
Yeah. So we do have a Fed meeting next week. I will ask you your opinion first. I think there was a lot of people thinking 50 basis points was on the table. Some people think 25, some think 0, some think cut. So we're going to play a game of percentages. So 100%. So you get 4 answers. They can be anywhere from 0 to 100 if you want.
Okay.
What do you think the chances are of a cut next week?
0.
What do you think the chances of a pause is next week?
25.
What do you think the chances of a 25 basis point raise?
60.
And then I guess the rest is 50. So it'd be 15?
15 at 50 bips. If you had asked me before Silicon Valley collapsed on Friday, I would have said 50 bips because the CPI data was up. And I thought they're going to have to go higher. Because of the banking crisis, my number, like a lot of economists, has gone back down to 25%. I don't think they stop. I don't think the data is sufficient yet to say we're close enough to our 2% goal that we stop. I think with the backdrop of what they did on Sunday, saying we're going to protect the banking system, that's going to give them the ability to continue to raise a little bit because they don't have the risk that raising increase causes banks to market down their assets and have that contagion.
Yeah, just to kind of round this out with my opinion, I think there's a 0% chance of a cut, a 1% chance of a pause, 99% chance of a quarter and 0 chance of 50. I've been on the
Yeah.
25 basis for quite a while, and I'm not changing, folks. Anna, where
Right,
can people
right.
find you?
Great. You can find me here every weekend on my playlist on your channel. You can find me on social media on my page at Anna Kelly, REI Mom, and my website, reimom.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.